Take 3. Lately, I've been watching a lot of Canon C200 rig videos, and the reason I'm doing this is because I recently purchased a Canon C200, and I personally love watching videos that filmmakers make on their gear and showcasing why exactly they use what they use to make their lives easier to shoot. That got me thinking about my Sony setup that I was really happy with and ticked a lot of boxes. Now, this rig doesn't have to be necessarily for Sony cameras or the A7s II in particular. It's just the camera that I have. You can change a few components here and there to make it for other cameras as well. But let's get into it. So my criteria for this build was firstly to have a monitor, because I find the Sony screen is pretty average in terms of viewing, so I wanted to have a monitor. Now I tried adding just a monitor and it made my camera really front heavy, so the second criteria was it had to be balanced. And thirdly, since I'm using a monitor and the A7, they don't use the same battery, so I wanted a thing that can power it all. And here's what we came up with. When I was looking to purchase a base plate, I was looking for two things. One, it had to be stable, yet low profile. Now, a lot of the ones I came across were either too big or they were only using a single clamp. And I wanted to use the dual clamp or even just something more stable, and this one does the job pretty well. Now next up, I wanted it to be fast access to put my camera on and off the base plate. So what I got was a quick release plate. Now this guy is also made by Smallrig, and it's a drop-in one compared to the slide-in ones that are made by Manfrotto. And this one's great because you do have on this rig is accessories at the back and maybe accessories at the front. A drop-in system is a lot better. Once the base is set, next up is 15mm rods. These ones in particular are made by Smallrig as well. To be exact, they are 12 inches, and I found these are perfect size for the camera that I have. Now, the reason I went for carbon fiber rods is because I want it to be light. And although you want your camera to be a little heavy so you'll get more stable shots, you don't want it to be too heavy that you're always putting down the camera and missing a shot. On to the main event. The camera that we're using for this setup is a Sony A7s II. I've used this camera for about 3 years now, and it's done an incredible job. Still has great video features, even to this date. Around the same time I purchased this camera, I also purchased a Varavon Zeus cage. Now at the time, the camera was new, so there wasn't amazing options for cages, I personally thought. But I did opt for this Varavon Zeus cage. Now this one is made by Koreans, I believe, but it's pretty average, to be honest. It doesn't have a built-in Hdmi lock, which I would love. And if you are using a lot of Canon lenses, it would be a good idea to get a lens support in your cage. That way your lenses aren't breaking the mount of the camera. But it does the job. Now, what also came with the Varavon Zeus cage was the top handle. Now, this top handle is by far not number one, as when you slide it straight on, you can lock it down. But the thing I don't like about this setup is it's not necessarily like a NATO rail, because NATO rails, you actually have the 2 pins on each end. This guy, if this comes undone, it's just gonna slide straight off. Now, that sucks if you have your whole setup on it. But in saying that, this hasn't failed me yet, and it does a pretty good job at locking it down. It's just, for peace of mind, I would love it to have little pins that come up or something. The monitor of choice is a SmallHD 702 Bright. It's a fantastic monitor, but like with every product, it has its flaws. If you want to see that, click here. The way I decided to mount it to the actual cage was by a 15mm rod. Now this setup is fantastic. I actually got it off Cheesy Cam, which was a guy on YouTube as well. I'll link his video in the description. Essentially, you use a adapter from 15mm rod to, I believe, 1/4 on the monitor, and then you can slide that straight on. If your handle has a 15mm rod adapter on it, you can just put a 15mm rod in between them and it goes on like so. Now this is fantastic, especially if you just lock it down to 95%. It still gives you some ability to move the monitor, which is fantastic, especially if you're filming and you want to get a low angle. You flip up your monitor, and then if you want to shoot straight down, you can just flip it down again. And this setup is awesome. One, it adds some versatility that I can get the shots and move it around. and it also adds a quick release system. Rather than screwing on my monitor, I can quickly just slide it on and tighten it down. Onto my solution for powering both the monitor and the camera is the Indipro Tools V-Lock to Sony FW50 adapter. Now this is pretty good. I actually haven't seen so many videos on this product. It is half metal, half plastic. Most of the parts that are metal are the ones that you want, such as the 50mm rod adapter. That is all metal, so you don't want that to break. Of course, one thing I wish that was metal was actually the battery release for the V-Lock. It is plastic and it just feels like it's gonna snap. But other than that, it is pretty good. It has a D-tap just on the P-tap or D-tap, one of the two, on the battery plate, which we will use later, but it also has the FW50 dummy battery. You get what you pay for essentially. This one is under $200. There are ones that are a lot more expensive, that are way better build quality. But with this one, keep in mind as well, once you purchase it, this one in particular, you have to get a new plate if you do upgrade your camera, as the battery is built in, the dummy battery. So just keep that in mind. If you do decide to upgrade very soon, maybe hold off or get an option that you can swap out the dummy battery. Now when using any type of monitor, you always have to plug a cable into the camera and one into the monitor. And the way I choose is a Hdmi cable. This one is just a generic one. I believe it's 1 or 2 meters. I just coil it up so that way if I do need to detach my monitor and hand it off to someone, I can easily do that and just unwrap this cable so they can start using it. I used to use the Hdmi coiled cables, and these are fantastic, but for that versatility I do like just using a longer cable. Now attached to this cable as well is a Hdmi Lock. This is the one that comes with the A7s II. This is one of the reasons why I would recommend, if you're buying a cage, buy one that has a Hdmi lock built in. It's not necessarily a pain, it's just an inconvenience, especially because it has circles for the microphone and the headphones. And if your cable is a bit too thick for this, it doesn't fit, then it won't plug straight into the camera. Now that's just a pain. So when you can, buy a cage with a Hdmi lock. Now the second cable is actually this guy. Now this one actually came with my SmallHD. It is a LPE6 dummy battery and it plugs straight in to a P-tap, or I forgot which one it is. It's a P-tap or a D-tap cable, and this can plug straight into the battery plate. So this will power the monitor. Last but not least, the thing that powers it all is a V-Lock battery. Now this one in particular is made by Core SWX. This is a fantastic battery, especially because it is travel safe. Now when choosing this battery, I wanted one that has either a battery indicator. A bonus was that it had a USB port, but mainly I wanted it to be small. And I was pretty concerned about whether it's going to be too heavy or too light for the camera. This one in particular is a little bit too light. It still balances it very well, especially if I use a 50mm, but when I use my 24-105, I could have gone for a little bit heavier battery. But having this definitely helps. It's a fantastic battery because it lasts you, I think, 2 days probably. Depends how much you're filming that day, but it will last a very long time. So once you have all this built, not only does it look cool, I personally think it makes you look a little bit more professional rather than rocking up with just this tiny camera. You rock up with a cinema looking camera. The second thing, it is powered all by one battery, so you don't necessarily have to worry about charging all those little FW50 batteries. I found these are pretty annoying to have so many. So having that battery to last all day is pretty nice. Lastly, it does have the ability to mount all these different accessories to the rig, such as a matte box or a follow focus, so you do have some versatility with this rig. And a double bonus with this, if you are using it a lot for handheld, you have 3 points of contact instead of 2. Rather than doing this guy, you can actually have your battery against your chest, and then you can use your hand on the camera, hand on the lens, and this just makes for a more stable shot. Without further ado, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. I hope you got something out of it, and hopefully this helps you when you're building your cinema rig. Now, if you have any questions, definitely chuck them in the comments below or send me a DM. I'd love to chat about it. If you want more information on the products, there's a link in the description below that has my kit link, so you can click on that and it will show the whole kit that I have for my Sony setup, as well as if you want to check out more photos of the rig, so maybe I didn't show a certain angle, check out my Instagram. I do have a few photos there. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.